Hi and welcome to another session. In this session, we will learn how to write journal entries when a business incurs expenses. So when a business incurs expenses and pays by cash or by check, all of those we would learn in this session. This video is for the students who are studying in the Cambridge board. So in case you are doing your IGCSE, AS and A levels, or you are doing your GCSE, then this video is for you. In case you are studying an Indian board, a separate video has been made for you and the link of that has been provided in the description box below. This is a series and it has 6 videos. The rules are explained in lesson number 1 as per the traditional approach. A separate video is coming up wherein the rules as per the modern approach would be explained. In lesson number 2, how to do journal entries when a business starts, that is, when a business is started and the owner introduces capital. All of that has been explained in lesson number 2. In lesson number 3, how to write journal entries when a business purchases assets in cash and on credit has been explained. This is lesson number 4. In this, we will learn how to write journal entries when a business incurs expenses. In lesson number 5, you will learn how to write journal entries for sales and purchases transaction in cash and on credit. And in lesson number 6, we will learn how to write journal entries when a business takes bank loan. I would request you to watch this video in full screen mode as this has accounting formats and the visibility would be best in full screen mode. To record the transaction, we have followed these steps. As you are new to accounting, I would suggest that you also take a note of these steps and follow them for the first 25 to 50 transactions, as this will help you understand the concept better and this will also help you record the journal entries. Now let's read the first transaction and record the journal entry. If you've watched my previous videos, you would know how we write journal entries. So first we will do the workings and then we will record it in the journal, as this will help us understand the concept better. So first we read the transaction, that is January 10, paid office rent $500 by check. Now we will do the workings in this table. Now this table is in line with the steps that I have already shown you earlier in this video. This has 6 columns: date, accounts involved, nature of the account, the rule, debit column and credit column. So in date we'll write January 10, and what are the 2 accounts involved over here? So the business is paying rent. So the first account is rent, and how is this rent being paid? This rent is paid by check. So the second account is bank. So the 2 accounts involved over here are rent and bank. Now rent is an expense for the business. Therefore, the rule for nominal account is going to be applied to rent. And the rule for nominal account is debit all expenses and losses and credit all incomes and gains. So rent is an expense, therefore rent account needs to be debited by amount 500. Now the next account involved over here is bank. Now bank is a business, it's an organization, and to it the rule for personal account is going to be applied, and the rule for personal account is debit the receiver and credit the giver. Here bank is giving the money to pay the rent. This is the business bank account. Therefore, bank account needs to be credited by the amount 500. Let's do it one more time. So the 2 accounts involved are rent, and the rent is being paid by check. So the second account is bank account. The rule for nominal account is going to be applied to rent because rent is an expense. So rent account needs to be debited by 500. The rule for personal account needs to be applied to bank. Why? Because the rule for personal account is applied to the accounts of individuals and all businesses. And bank is a business. So bank is the giver of this money in this transaction. The business is paying rent. Therefore, bank account needs to be credited by 500. Now let's record this entry in journal. So this is the format of journal. It has 4 columns: date, details, debit column and credit column. And there is a structure of journal entry. First, you write the name of the account that needs to be debited. Then in the second line, you write the name of the account that needs to be credited. And in the third line, you write a brief description about the journal entry. This is called the narrative. So January 10. So which were the two accounts involved? Rent and bank. So January 10, rent account needs to be debited. It will be written in the first line, and in the debit column, amount 500. In the next line, we will leave some space. You cannot write just below rent. You have to leave the space, and then you will write the name of the account that needs to be credited. And in the credit column, the amount 500. And the narrative is paid office rent by check. So rent account debit, in the debit column 500, bank account credit, so in the credit column 500, and the narrative is paid office rent by check. The rules have been explained in lesson number 1, and the format of journal has been explained in detail in lesson number 2. So I would request you to watch those videos also, as that will help you understand the concept better. Now let's move on to the next transaction. So the next transaction is January 11, paid wages $1,000. Now whenever you have a transaction like this wherein it is not written that the amount was paid by cash or through check, it is assumed that the amount is paid through bank. So here we've read the transaction, that is January 11, paid wages $1,000, and what is the second account? So here we will take the second account as bank. So whenever the mode of payment is not stated, that is, it's just written that the money was being paid, so you will assume that the payment is made through bank. So the first account here is wages and the second account is bank account. Now let's do the workings. So we will continue in the same table where we had done the workings earlier. You would leave a line and then do the workings for this transaction. So the date is January 11. The accounts involved are wages and bank account. Now wages is an expense for the business. Therefore, the rule for nominal account is going to be applied to wages. So wages is an expense. The rule for nominal account is going to be applied to wages. And over here you've written that wages is an expense, and in the debit column you will write the amount that is 1,000. Now the second account involved over here is bank account. Now bank is account of a business, therefore the rule for personal account is going to be applied to bank. Bank is giving the money to pay wages, therefore bank is giver, and the rule for personal account is debit, the receiver, and credit, the giver. Here bank is the giver, therefore bank account needs to be credited by 1,000. Let's do it one more time. So the two accounts are wages and bank. Wages is an expense, therefore the rule for nominal account needs to be applied to it, and wages account needs to be debited by 1,000. Bank is a business, it's an organization, therefore the rule for personal account needs to be applied to bank, and bank is the giver of the money. Therefore, bank account needs to be credited by 1,000. Now let's record this in our journal. So where you had recorded the previous transaction, in the same format you will leave a line and then record this transaction. So which were the two accounts involved? Wages and bank. Why are we taking over here as bank? Because it is assumed that the payment is made through bank. So date is January 11th and the two accounts involved are wages and bank. Wages account is debited, therefore it is to be written in the first line. So wages account, and in the debit column 1,000. The account that needs to be credited is written in the second line. So you would leave some space, then you will write bank account credit. Therefore in the credit column you would write 1,000, and the narrative is paid wages to staff by check. Let's do it one more time. Wages account debit. So in the debit column 1,000. Bank account credit, therefore in the credit column 1000, and the narrative is paid wages to staff by check. Now let's move on to the next transaction. And the next transaction is on January 12, paid salaries $5,000 by check. Again, we will do the workings in the same table. So you would leave a line and then do the workings for this. And for all transactions, we would first do the workings and then write the journal entries. Why? Because we need to understand before we actually record the journal entries. So the two accounts involved over here are, one is salaries. Salaries is being paid to the staff by the business. And how is it being paid? It is paid by check. Whenever the transaction is made by check, the second account involved is bank account. So the two accounts involved over here are salaries and bank. So January 12, the two accounts involved are salaries and bank. Salaries is an expense for the business. Therefore, the rule of nominal account is going to be applied to salaries. So salaries and bank are the two accounts. To salaries, the rule of nominal account is going to be applied, and over here under rule we write expense. The rule for nominal account is debit all expenses and losses and credit all incomes and gain. So 5,000 needs to be debited to salaries account. Bank is the account of an organization. Therefore, the rule for personal account is going to be applied to bank. And here the bank is giving the money to pay for these salaries. This is the business bank account. And the rule for personal account is debit the receiver and credit the giver. So this account is giving, therefore this needs to be credited. Let's do it one more time. So the two accounts involved are salaries and bank. To salaries, the rule for nominal account is going to be applied. Why? Because salaries is an expense. Therefore, salaries account needs to be debited by 5,000. Bank is account of an organization. It's a type of business. Therefore, the rule for personal account is going to be applied to bank, and bank is giving the money over here, and the money paid over here is being given through bank account. Therefore, bank account needs to be credited by 5,000. Now, let's record the entry in our journal. So you would leave a line, and in the same format you would record this entry. Which were the two accounts involved? Salaries and bank. So we would write the debit account first, credit account next, and the narrative. So salaries account needs to be debited. So you will write here salaries, and in the debit column 5,000. Then you will leave some space, and then the name of the account that needs to be credited, that is bank account. And in the credit column 5,000. And the narrative is paid salaries to staff by check. So salaries account debit, in the debit column 5,000, bank account credit, in the credit column 5,000, and the narrative is paid salaries to staff by check. Now let's move on to the next transaction, and the next transaction is January 13th, paid for repairs of machine $250 in cash. Here repairs is the first account and cash is the second account. So the two accounts involved are repairs, and how are we paying for this repair? We are paying through cash. So we will continue in the same table. You would leave a line and then you will do the workings for this transaction. So the date is January 30th. The two accounts involved are repairs and cash. Whenever an asset is being repaired, it is treated as an expense for the business. Therefore, to repairs, the rule for nominal account is going to be applied. Why? Because repairs is an expense. So 250 needs to be debited to repairs account. Now cash is a resource for the business. Therefore, to it we will apply the rule for real account. And cash is going out of the business. Therefore, to cash account we would credit $250. So the two accounts involved are repairs and cash. The rule for nominal account is going to be applied to repairs. Why? Because repairs is an expense and it needs to be debited by $250. Cash is a resource for the business. It is an asset. So the rule for real account is going to be applied to cash. And cash is going out of the business. Therefore, cash account needs to be credited by $250. Now let's record the entry in our journal. So we would leave a line and then record this entry. So January 13th, which were the two accounts, repairs and cash. So first we'll write the account that needs to be debited, then the account that needs to be credited, and then the narrative. So repairs account debit, so in the debit column 250. In the next line we will leave some space and then write cash. So cash account credit and the amount in the credit column, which is 250, and the narrative is repairs to machinery paid by cash. Let's do it one more time. Repairs account debit in the debit column 250, cash account credit in the credit column 250, and the narrative is repairs to machinery paid by cash. I hope you understood how do we write journal entries for expenses. In case there are any doubts, you can leave them in the comment section below. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And do remember to press the bell button to stay notified about all our future videos. Till the next video, bye-bye.